everyone, and this is my review for Monday Night Raw on December 12th, 2016. And, you know, we're going to just go with what pretty much started and ended the show this week, which was the New Day breaking the record of the Tag Team Championships, or their attempt at breaking the record, as they were trying to lead you to believe the entire show. They started off the show with the Triple Threat Tag Team match with the New Day, Gallows and Anderson, and Cesaro and Sheamus, with it being just an absolutely fun match to watch. These guys put on a tremendous show. You even had that spot with Cesaro where he literally does something to all four of the opposing competitors, in one fluid motion, and it came off looking really good in the end. It was just a fun and enjoyable match to go along with, which also throughout the entire match, they led you to believe that the New Day was going to lose. The New Day was going to lose. Like, they were getting beaten up throughout the entire thing until they sneaked the victory in at the end. And they don't do it in dubious means like they had been doing before. Kofi gets like the no-look tag and then hits Sheamus with a Trouble in Paradise after they hit a move on Anderson. So it came off in that sense, so everybody's thinking. It's like, oh, okay, they broke the tag team titles. They broke the record for the tag team titles and everything in that sense. They're backstage doing a celebration. They had everybody in there. Well, everybody essentially in there. Like, you had Bayley in there, and you had some other extras, but Foley and Stephanie were in there as well. Stephanie makes an address about the New Day breaking the tag team records and the tag team title records. As Xavier Woods has champagne, he shakes them up and does the whole typical celebration that you would get like in sports and everything, when they shower everything with champagne and everything in that sense. And they accidentally douse Stephanie in it, which later leads into Kevin Owens coming up with a plan to try to get back at the New Day for doing what they did to Stephanie, which he makes that announcement during the Rollins report, which this is actually going to go through a good chunk of the show to go along with it. Because out there during the Rollins report, first of all, Kevin Owens doesn't even bother with coming to the ring. He did what Samoa Joe did down in NXT when they did the contract sign with him and Nakamura. Like, Joe got a table and everything like that and did all the business there. This time he just grabs a stool and sits on the rampway. Says he has an announcement to make that him and his best friend Chris Jericho were going to get a tag team title shot later that night in the main event. So that was thrown in there. This does prompt Jericho to immediately come out. It looks like they're still in quarrels during that portion of time. That Jericho and Owens haven't technically made up or anything in that sense, but Rollins keeps prodding at both of them, and this eventually makes Jericho decide to side with Owens, at least for tonight, where he was going and then he made it look like he was going to put Seth Rollins on the list, and then he puts down the pin and the list and says, "I'm not going to just put you on the list. I'm going to put you on the disabled list." As he starts heading down to the ring, like, Owens is trying to stop him from going in there, and because they had the tag title match, and then Jericho just looks at Owens and it's like, "We'll both get him." And they both go after him. So it's like they make up a little bit here in this portion of the show, and they start beating down Rollins. This prompts Roman Reigns to come out to make the save, and basically make the save. They get beaten down a little bit, but then they chase off Jericho and Owens later. This segment wasn't bad. It wasn't bad in the end. I was not that big of a fan of it. Mainly because they had been teasing the Jericho Owens thing, like them breaking off as a tag team for a little while now, and it looked like it had happened, but now they're getting back together. I guess the tensions weren't that high in the storyline yet between the two of them, and everything in that sense, but it's I guess the real weird thing is, like, with everything Rollins and Reigns have done to each other, how quickly are they to just make up and say, oh, we're gonna help each other again? And I guess you could play off the whole aspect of common enemies and everything in that sense, but it just doesn't. It doesn't come off as fully natural to that extent. This does lead to another backstage moment, another backstage segment with Rollins and Reigns and Foley, who said. It reminded him of, like seeing the scene reminded him of a young Shield, the two guys who won the tag team titles, and then puts them in the tag team title match to go along with it. Though I do like the reluctance of Reigns and Rollins a little bit. Like, it plays off the aspect that they don't necessarily want to team together to become tag team champions. They kind of want to do their own thing. They're just, it's like they're helping each other for convenience. So it makes that aspect of them. So it does bring that back a little bit to an aspect that they don't necessarily want to work together. They're just doing it to be a means to an ends at that point in time. That led into what was the main event of the night, which was New Day, Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho versus Rollins and Reigns for the tag team titles. And again, this was just like the opening match with Cesaro and Sheamus and Gallows and Anderson. It was a really fun and entertaining match to watch. And again, doing a lot of the teasing of New Day. Like, the story of the night was New Day and them trying to break this tag title record to go along with it. And the factor of them, continually teasing it throughout the entire show, even leading it up into the end of the show where Kevin Owens pops up Xavier Woods, because they had, in the first match it was Kofi and Big E. This time it was Big E and Xavier, so they're playing the whole Freebird rule thing to go along with that. And the aspect of Kevin Owens doing the pop-up powerbomb into the Codebreaker, which is pretty much just a different variation of Revival's Shatter Machine to go along with it, was a really good spot. It looked like Jericho was going to pick up the victory there, but then he gets pedigreed by Rollins, and Big E holds down Seth Rollins while Xavier crawls over and gets the pin to have them actually break the record. And like I said, I like this aspect of it. It made them feel like they really had to earn it. Like, storyline wise, it made them feel like they really had to earn getting the tag team title record. In the end, it's like last couple days and everything in that sense. Like, we're gonna throw everything at you to do it, and they managed to pull it out. Like, I think the story throughout the entire night came off rather well. I know there are some people, and like since I had watched back then as well, I am somewhat of a fan of Demolition to go along with it. I know some people are saying it's like, oh, this is just a slap in the face to Demolition. It's like, oh, look, they beat 4 tag teams to beat your record. It's like, well, no, that was pretty much just the story of the night to try to make them really earn it. And I think a lot of people miss the point on that one because they just want to look for something to argue about. I'm not 100% certain on that, but overall, I think the way that they got him into the second tag team title match was fine, and everything that they had done in there was rather well done throughout the entire night. Both matches were really good, and it just came off enjoyable, and like I said, story-wise, it made it feel like they earned the record even more than they had done so already. So I thought it came off rather well. Let's go through some other matches that they had throughout the night. You had Braun Strowman going up against Curtis. Actually, I'll talk about. You had Braun Strowman and Curtis Axel, and Braun Strowman pretty much squashed him, and then cuts a promo about Sami Zayn, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. You also had Bayley going up against Alicia Fox, and what was kind of a repeat from last week, but this time it was based off of the aspect of one of the Bayley Bears, because the week before Bayley had given a Bayley Bear to Cedric, so Alicia is like, you're going after my guy, and that was how that got set up. This week they set it up based off of Alicia Fox destroying one of those bears, and them having a second match. Like, at this point, it almost feels like they're going to have more matches down the road here, but there's really no point. Bayley's gone over in both matches at this point in time. I would say this match was all right, but it was a bit off at times. You could tell they were kind of wishy-washy in their movements around each other, but overall, not a bad match by any stretch of the imagination. You had a promo from Rich Swann, and I actually liked this promo from Rich Swann because we had two cruiserweight points matches in the night, but 2 points where I just absolutely it's like this was good. This was good stuff. I like the aspect of Rich Swann's promo. He gets interrupted. He was talking about the triple threat match later in the weekend, Roadblock, between Perkins and Kendrick. Kendrick comes in and starts wanting to play the whole mind games that, oh, Perkins is just going to turn on you. Then Perkins comes and is like, you know, Swann knows I'm going to try to do anything to win the title. And yet here you are trying to play mind games. Like they're anti-mind gaming Brian Kendrick at this point. It's like, we already established that both of us are going to try to win by whatever means we can, but it doesn't really hurt the friendship or anything in that sense. So they're trying to play anti-mind games to go along with it. It also throws an aspect of, hey, these guys are going to be every man for themselves on Sunday to go along with it. So it doesn't throw a whole aspect of, oh, who's going to work together and everything in that sense. And then they had a match with T.J. Perkins and Brian Kendrick. Kendrick goes over in here with what I thought was a really good match between the two of them, and adds a little bit of momentum going into the pay-per-view match. The first one that they did of the night, though, with the Cruiserweight Classic, and I'm just going to go off and say this. You had Arya Daivari going up against Lince Dorado, and Jack Gallagher, midway through the match, comes out and he starts talking on the mic, to cause a little bit of distraction. You know, the typical distraction. But he comes out to declare his intention to interfere in the match. And at that point in time, typically I have a pen in my hand and I'm writing down notes throughout the entire show for these reviews. At that point in time, I'm just like, Gallagher, you win. You win right there. I am a fan of yours by the aspect that he is gentlemanly enough to come out with a microphone to declare his intention to interfere into a match. Who does that? That's probably one of the best. That's probably one of the best interferences I have seen. Period. And then Gallagher goes after Daivari, and that's how Daivari ends up winning the match this week for a disqualification. But just great way of going. I am a fan of Jack Gallagher's right then and there. If you weren't really a fan of it during the Cruiserweight Classic or what you had seen of him so far, just that moment, it's like, I'm going to come out here and interfere in this match in a new and unique way. You win, sir. You win. So this brings off to Rusev's promo. They have been going throughout the entire night about Rusev and Lana are going to show what they do behind closed doors and everything in that sense. And this promo from Rusev was absolutely, it was gold, because you could also tell in his face that he was just enjoying being out there cutting this promo, because he has this giant grin, just knowing how off the wall and silly that this one was. So it's like, you want to see what we do behind closed doors? And then they just show the beatdown from the week before. It's like, what did you guys think we were going to show? Did you really think we were going to show this PG show? Come on. So yeah, that came off rather good. That came off rather good. This does lead to Big Cass eventually coming out there to brawl with the two of them. And, again, they still stick Rusev in this situation that it's hard to want to boo him, because he's not necessarily in the wrong for what he's done to Enzo. in that case, because Enzo did go to the hotel room with the initial intentions of getting with Lana, and all in falling for the ploy, but also through every action that they have done. Like, Enzo's technically not in the wrong here, so Rusev had every right to go for the beatdown. In that case, at least in full-on wrestling storylines, he's in the right. So, again, they're trying to portray him as the heel, but yet he's not really doing anything any other guy wouldn't do. In that case, and Big Cass, again, he comes off okay on the microphone, but he came off this week just like he would in any other week, like the typical same voice. Didn't add any extra like emphasis or anger. You couldn't figure the anger. I mean, this guy just did beat down his best buddy last week, and he didn't come off any differently, outside the factor of wanting to, just going out there and wanting to fight, but like you couldn't tell in the tone of his voice or anything in that sense. Like, that's a little bit of a nitpick on that side in the terms of the story, that he did not convey that emotion all that well to go along with it. And it does lead into a match with Rusev and Cass, like we were kind of assuming it would do. But it's also going to be on the kickoff show. It's not even on the main show. Why is Rusev on the kickoff show? It's kind of weird in that sense of everything. But they are going to have that match at Roadblock, and we'll see how that one plays out. You would assume Rusev goes over in this case. At least I would think, because they've got more that they can do with that particular program down the road here. And this is going to bring me to the last point of the night, which was Sami Zayn and Foley. They've been cutting these promos over the last couple weeks, like Foley's trying to save Sami from himself because he keeps wanting this match with Braun Strowman, but Foley doesn't necessarily want him to have that match. And after the match with Curtis Axel, Strowman does cut a promo saying that Sami Zayn wouldn't last 2 minutes with him in the ring. And this does eventually show up later on with Foley and Sami Zayn having a backstage promo, a semi-impassioned one. It's like Zayn comes in, or not fully impassioned, but semi in that case. Like, Zayn comes in and it's like, are you going to give me that match with Strowman? It's like, no. And then Zayn's like, then why am I even here? And it's like, why am I even here? And that prompts Foley to say, it's like, do you want to trade? Well, I mean, if you're not going to give me... And he's like, if you don't give me the match with Strowman, I guess that's the best route then. In that case, like, okay. And then, like, Foley's like, okay, I'm going to go talk to Daniel Bryan. So later on in the night, Sami Zayn went up against Jinder Mahal, and Sami Zayn went over fairly easy in that match. And they even played off of the aspect that during that promo, it's like... Foley said, I'll give you any opportunity you want, any championship matches, anything, but I wasn't going to give you the match with Braun Strowman. And this leads to Foley coming out there, and it's like he's coming, like they're playing it off that it's probably Sami's last night, like he's waving bye to the fans and everything in that sense. Foley comes out, he comes out with his little books, so you're assuming that it's going to be a trade or something in that sense. And he goes off there to try to, in the end, he goes out there to try to anger up Sami Zayn. It's like, I traded you straight up, and do you want to know who it is? And it's like, and he said it was Eva Marie. And I loved Sami Zayn's reaction. It's like, you straight up for Eva Marie, really? And Zayn's like, I'm worth 100 of her. I'm worth 1,000 of her, and gets crazy angry about it. And then Foley basically backs off and tells him to remember that anger and everything in that sense, because now he's going to put him in that match with Braun Strowman. Pulls out like a blank piece of paper because there was no actual trade, saying he would never trade him or anything in that sense. And eventually makes the match a 10-minute challenge. So you're going with this aspect that he doesn't necessarily have to win this match. They're going with the aspect that he's got to survive 10 minutes with this. So you've given, like, Sami Zayn a goal to go for in there. It's like, Braun Strowman said you couldn't survive 2. I'm giving you 10. I'm giving you 5 times the amount that he says you can survive in that sense. Go out there and prove it at that point in time. So, again, they came off I like this one a lot better. You've seen a lot of those promos where Foley goes off into this impassionate tangent, like semi-angry tangent on people. I think this has probably been the better one of those because it made you, like, this week it felt like Foley believed what he was saying and that sense of everything, and it came off good, it came off right, and it sets up Sami Zayn for for this match with Braun Strowman, now to the point that he is like, hey, could he win the match, or can he survive the 10 minutes when Strowman, who's been destroying people in like 3-4 tops, can with everybody, like no one's ever gone 10 minutes, or he hasn't even had a 10-minute match yet, so that could also be an interesting thing to see too. It's like, how does Braun Strowman hold up in a semi-longer match to go along with it, or a longer match for him at least, to go along with that. And it came off good. It gives you something to look forward to into that match later on in the or for the pay-per-view match, not later on the show, but for the pay-per-view match between the two of them. So it came off rather well. And final point of the night, because a lot of people are thinking that it's going to be the main event. I think it could be the main event of the show, but the video package that they showed for the Sasha Banks Charlotte match, the Iron Man match or the Iron Woman match for Sunday, was a great setup, and they did even depict it like saying that, hey, this is going to be the end of this rivalry for the time being because there is a no rematch clause placed in their contract and everything in that sense. Like, they don't show up on the show at all this week. It's only this video package, and they're also giving you this aspect of a definitive end, at least for now, until they want to go back to that storyline, because there's a non-rematch clause in this particular match, where basically saying these two are going to have this match, the winner, it's final. No more rematches, no more this, no more that. And the video package was well put together, and like I said, I feel like it should be the main event of the show, unless they want to put the Universal title there. Either way that they go with, and we'll see how. We'll see what they decide to place on the show. I feel like the storyline between Sasha and Charlotte is actually stronger than the one that they have with Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens, and you have Rollins and Jericho having their storyline, but also being intertwined into that to go along with it. So usually you want your strongest story to go last. So you would assume Charlotte and Sasha would go last, but we'll see if they do that again. See if they are wary to do that again after Hell in the Cell, where their finish did come off a bit flat. Though I felt like it was an excellent match between the two of them. The finish did come off flat and like leaving the fans like, or something in that sense. But we'll see if they do that, go for it again. I think they should, because, like I said, it's probably still their best story that they've got going on the show, and that's what you like I said, like whatever your best story is should be your headline for a pay-per-view. So we'll see what they decide to do with that on Sunday for Roadblock. So with that being said, overall this week's Raw was pretty good again. They're on a good roll of having relatively good Raws, though it's still really hard to necessarily watch Raw on a weekly basis because it's still a 3-hour show. But they're putting on better shows. I still wish it was a 2-hour show in the end, but I think a lot of people have hammered that point in that they want 2-hour shows instead of a 3-hour show. But that's not what we're getting right now in that case of everything. But overall, I think they did a pretty good job of building things up, and we'll see where they go with everything going into the pay-per-view, and we'll see. Like I said, we'll see where they go with everything going into the pay-per-view. And that is my review this week for Monday Night Raw. I thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a great day.